Welcome into another episode of Three's a Crowd on this June 1st edition. I'm Preston Vargas here with another episode. Eli Evans on vacation, but don't worry, we got a lot of stuff to get into today. Before we do, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We got a goal to get to 200 subs by the start of football season, September 9th, for the kickoff game between the Patriots and the Seahawks. So don't forget to subscribe. And now let's get into this. We had a great game on Saturday night from Oklahoma City, Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder. And that game, the Spurs won that game 111 to 103. Wembanyama having 22 points in 42 minutes. It was a great game all around. The Spurs, they really helped themselves early on, getting off to a good run early to start, and then the Thunder made it interesting. I think the Spurs were up by 14 at one point in the first half. They won the first quarter 32 to 25. Then the Thunder brought it back, took the lead at one point in the second quarter, but then the Spurs had a lead at the half once again by three. Then it was a pretty even third quarter, and then the fourth quarter, the Spurs tried to close it out there, and they ended up doing so, going to their first NBA Finals since 2014. They'll play the New York Knicks. We'll preview that series in just a second. But talking about the Spurs, Wembanyama in his first ever playoffs, he's going to the NBA Finals. I mean, he every night he does things we've never seen before, and we saw more new things from him in that game. It'll be amazing to see what he does in the NBA Finals. But we will have a an eighth different champion in 8 straight years, which is insane. I think that's the longest streak in NBA history with a new champion. That goes to show the parity that there is in the league, and we'll see how that goes. But now let's preview the NBA Finals. The Spurs and the Knicks coming up on Wednesday will be game one of that series. Of course, these two teams did meet in the regular season. We actually streamed one of their games. It was, let me get the date right, but I know we did stream it. Yes, it was on December 1st. Or not December, March 1st of 2026. These two teams played on a Sunday afternoon at Madison Square Garden. That was a competitive game. I think we ended up. Actually, no, it wasn't. 114 to 89 was the final score. The Knicks ended up winning that one. Yeah, that's right. That because the Spurs were on like a 10-game winning streak at the time in the middle of their rodeo road trip, and the Knicks ended their winning streak, which was impressive on the road. Excuse me, sorry about that, but that was impressive, mostly on the road for San Antonio throughout that stretch. But they ran into a bus on the New York Knicks. A lot of people are saying the Knicks don't have a chance in this series, but in my opinion, I think they do because you got Jalen Brunson, who's been playing well, stepping up when you need to. Let's not forget they've won 11 straight games in the postseason. 11 straight wins, including sweeps of the Cavs, who are no slouches despite James Harden not showing up. They swept the Philadelphia 76ers with Tyrese Maxey. Joel Embiid played well in that series as well, but you still swept them. And then the Hawks, you won 3 straight against them. The Knicks are hot and have a lot of firepower. We'll see how the long layoff does for them, although they did have a long layoff when they played Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals, but that was really nothing to it there. Even though the Cavs blew a 22-point lead in game one, they still got the win, and that's why I think the Knicks. I think they could possibly win, but I don't think they are going to win. I think this will go to seven games, with Game 7 being in San Antonio, and the Spurs. I think they'll get it done there with their first NBA title since 2014 when they beat LeBron James of the Miami Heat in LeBron's last year there. But the Knicks are looking for their first title since 1973. Of course, their first finals appearance since 1999 when they played the San Antonio Spurs, led by David Robinson and Tim Duncan. and I think that was Tim Duncan's first NBA Finals, and Dave Robinson's first and only title with San Antonio. Of course, that kick-started the Spurs dynasty with Tim Duncan, leading up to that 2014 Finals in their last appearance. But we will see how this Finals goes. But now that's not the only Finals going on. We go to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, and it will be between the Vegas Golden Knights, who are making their third Stanley Cup Finals appearance in franchise history. That's insane because it's only their ninth season as a team. But Vegas, they've like I said this in the in episode last week about the Vegas Golden Knights that they really know how to get it done. And with their ownership group led by the Black Knight Sports Entertainment with Bill Foley, they really know how to get it done. It goes to show that you can get things that if you have a good ownership group, there is hope. You have a determined ownership group. Let's not forget the first time they made the Stanley Cup Finals in their first ever season in 2017-2018. They were an expansion team, but it's definitely something to look at for them. Then obviously they went to the finals in 23, won it in their sixth season as a franchise, and now they have a chance to go back to the Stanley Cup final again, where they'll take on the Carolina Hurricanes, who have had all the success in the past, uh, I would say 7, 8 years, been contenders in the Eastern Conference, would either run into teams like the Panthers or the Lightning, which, by the way, this will be the first Stanley Cup Finals since 2019, so 7 years ago. First Stanley Cup Final since 2019, where there's no Florida teams in the Stanley Cup Final, which is insane to think about. But yeah, the Hurricanes are in the Stanley Cup Final. They made it uh, their last Cup Final, 2006, where they won it against the Edmonton Oilers. That was the year they came out of the lockout and ended up winning the Cup. Now that team, I think that they had Rod Brindamore. He was their captain, and now he's their head coach for this finals run. And they went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2002 when they lost in five to the Red Wings. That '06 finals, that was I don't remember. I was too young to remember. They won that in 7 games in a 3-1 win at the I think it was PNC or RBC Arena at the time. RBC Center it was called at the time. So then it changed to PNC Arena, and then now it's Lenovo Center. So yes, the Golden Knights and Hurricanes will face off for the Stanley Cup Finals coming up. And now we will get into an update on baseball. So we didn't really on the show. I acknowledge we don't spend enough time on baseball. So let's do it now. We'll give you an update through 60 games of the season so far. And right now, let's take a look at the division leaders in the American League East. Surprisingly, the Tampa Bay Rays, who are supposed to be in a rebuilding year, have the best record in the American League now. That which is weird to me. And let's look at player stats for the Rays. Um, Yandy Diaz leading them in batting average. Caminero 13 home runs. He's up there in the American League. Jonathan Aranda playing well with 43 RBI. But looking at the offense for them, Aranda, Caminero, Diaz, all playing well. Chandler Simpson, the rookie, playing well in his first year with the team. Then pitching are, and just so you know, I am a Rays fan and a Cubs fan, but Nick Martinez leading the team in innings pitched, um, and also leading in ERA. But offense has been doing well for us so far. But the Rays are first in the AL East and second and first in the American League. Also in first place, the Cleveland Guardians, 34 and 27. They lead the American League Central. We actually had their did their game on Saturday afternoon when they played the Red Sox, where they ended up 1 second, where they ended up losing that one 9-1 to Boston. And they dropped the Sunday game too, so they lost two straight, but they've been okay so far. Right now, 5-5 in their last few games. So the White Sox are starting to catch them that and could potentially tie the division for tonight. They're not careful. So we'll see what happens in that division. But yeah, the White Sox a game back. The defending champion Tigers 11 and a half games out of the Central. And taking a look at this, 7 games out of the wild card. They're last in the American League overall. The Detroit Tigers are. But AL East, the Yankees are obviously back there as well. A game and a half there in the wild card. Blue Jays 9 games out with a 29 and 31 record. Team that I thought would be improved. The Orioles 30, 28 and 32. Not as bad as they were last year record wise, but not where they want to be either with that young core that they have. Also, the Royals 22 and 37, not having a good year, despite Bobby Witt having a great year so far. They definitely don't want to waste a season of him. And the American League West, the Seattle Mariners, defending champions of that division, 31 and 29, with a 2.5 game lead over the Athletics, the homeless Athletics, if you could call them that. But the A's doing well this season, despite playing in Sacramento and not having a city attached to them. The Rangers also back there. They at first they're starting to get something going, but they have not done well. Uh, did a bit of a rough stretch in the month of May, but are starting to even out. They've won three straight. Astros 27 and 34. That dynasty might be over. I think they might start selling. The Angels are the Angels 23 and 37, tied for last in the actually the half a game above the last spot. Really the wild card for the American League. We have the Yankees, White Sox, and Blue Jays. Now the White Sox having the worst record in the league, I think 2024, and then not doing so hot in 25. But they ended strong in 25. I think they had like the second best record post trade deadline, but still missed the postseason after a bad start. But they're 3.5 games in the wild card at this point, and also challenging for the division. So maybe that and the all started with the inauguration of Pope Leo. Maybe he's helping the White Sox, and maybe he can help the Bears next season finally get over the hump, win the Super Bowl. And we'll see. But the A's have and Rangers have a game out. Orioles also a game out. The American League is very tight this year in the wild card. Really, any team could. Actually, I'll put this out there. Any team is so one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. 8 teams are a good series away from a good or bad series from getting into the postseason or getting out of it. And those teams: Red Sox, Astros, Twins, Orioles, Rangers, and A's. And of course, the Twins are supposed to be rebuilding, but you're a good series or two away from getting in. And the Tigers are only 7 games out of the wild card at this point of the season. Now we move on to the National League. And now we go to the best record in baseball. It's not the Dodgers, it's the Atlanta Braves at 40 and 20. They are the only team so far to get to that 40 win mark of the season. They enjoy a 9 game cushion in the American League East. And the other teams in there, the Washington Nationals surprisingly in second with a 31 and 29. They got a good young squad there, but every team, every sportsbook still has them with the worst odds to win down with the Rockies. But the Nationals, they are looking good despite their record not in the wild card spot. They're actually the seventh in terms of wild card, but still a game out. That's a. And we'll go into the disparity between the leagues in just a minute. But the Phillies, after they fired Rob Thompson, are in third right now, led by Don Mattingly. They've, I think I saw a stat, they've won 20 out of their last 30, 21 of their last 30 games. So pretty good record for them. try and get back in the mix. The Mets. I don't know what to say about the Mets. Juan Soto, he's been okay for them, but not the $700 million that they paid. 13 and a half games out of the division, and they are right now in the wild card race. They are 5.5 games out. So not a good season for the Mets. But there's still a lot of baseball left, but they got to start turning around now. And they've their last 10 games, they're 5 and 5. They've actually won 4 straight games, so I'll give him that. But 5 and 5 their last four, they're starting to turn it on, but they need to do something. They had an 11 game losing streak at one point, or maybe 12 games. I don't know, somewhere around that. But it was not good for the no bueno for the Mets. And then, of course, last place, the Miami Marlins, 26 and 34. Not bad, but still last. And now the NL Central, where every team in this division is over 500. So, and every team's within 6 games of each other. We'll start with the leaders, the Milwaukee Brewers, defending NL Central champions, 31 and 35 and 21. Despite the tightness of the division, 4.5 game lead in the Central. So they're looking pretty good right now. It's 7-3 their last 10 games. Right now, favored to win the division. And the St. Louis Cardinals enjoying a better than expected season. 4.5 games back, 31 and 26. Pittsburgh Pirates, 32 and 28. In third place, 5 games back, enjoying a good season with Paul Skeens. Of course, they called up Connor Griffin, who has now been placed on the 10-day IL with some elbow issues. And then the Cubs, they were off to a hot start to begin the season, but have since tempered off. 3-7, including a 10-game losing streak just in the past week. But they're still above 500. Then the Reds, 30 and 28, last place in that division. We'll get to the wild card in a second, but the West, led by the Dodgers at 5.5 games, 30 and 20, 38 and 21 record. Demolished the Phillies yesterday on the stream that we did. Padres, 5.5 games back, 32 and 26. Diamondbacks, 31 and 27. Dodgers and Diamondbacks play a 4 game set starting this weekend or this week tonight. And then the Giants, 23 and 36. Some people thought they would be improved, but their the hiring manager with no MLB experience doesn't really help you. They're 23 and 36. And the Rockies, 22 and 38, worst record in baseball. So we'll take a look at the National League wild card round. Let's see how the divisions stack up. So it's the Braves, Dodgers, and Brewers, the division leaders in that order, 1, 2, and 3. First wild card is the Padres, a game in. The Cardinals are second, and the Diamondbacks are third. So pretty competitive division there. And Diamondbacks, Pirates, and Cubs are actually tied for that final wild card spot. So the tops, I'll put it this way: the top 8 teams in the wild card are within 2 games of each other. So it's that tied in the wild card for the American League and the National League. Mets 5.5 games out. Excuse me. Marlins 6 games out. Giants 8.5 games out, and the Rockies 10 games out. I thought the Giants with Devers would be a little bit better than that, but didn't expect them to fit it to be 23 and 36. But I want to look at this disparity between the National League and the American League. This might be one of the consequences of interleague play. So, looking at the teams over 500 in the National League, there are 11 teams, 11 out of the 15 National League teams are over 500. And in the American League, only 5 teams are above 500. So, definitely a disparity in interleague play when the leagues play against each other. The National League is definitely the better league. There's no doubt about that. But looking at where the Blue Jays would be as the 3 seed in the wild card in the American League, if they were the National League, they would be ninth with, I think they'd be close to the Mets in terms of getting in. But the Pirates, first team out of the National League wildcard spot, if they were in the American League Central, they wouldn't win the division, but let's see. They'd have the final wild card spot. So a bit of a disparity there in terms of the leagues, but that's what you can expect throughout the season. And there's still a lot of season to go. Well, there is no season to go in the regular season is the UFL. They just finished up the regular season in the league. The Orlando Storm, shout out, winning the getting the one seed, but they have to host their playoff game against the DC Defenders. We played three times in a row, which we finished. We played against them the last 2 weeks. Now we're going to play them in the first round of the playoffs, first playoff appearance in Storm history, but it is on the road in uh, Columbus, Ohio. More than likely, but hearing rumors that they're trying to find a last second deal to get a stadium deal done to play the game in Orlando. It can't be at our normal stadium, Interco Stadium, where Orlando City plays. They they have that building booked for an England international friendly, but I think there are some other options around. You have Stetson Stadium up in DeLand, about an hour away. Also, Daytona Stadium, where Bethune-Cookman plays, is another option. Maybe on the Space Coast, or maybe in Kissimmee at the Osceola Heritage Park. They got an old baseball stadium that they use for the Orlando City B team that they play their games there. But I think that if they do get a stadium done in Orlando where we can play, I will definitely be at that game. So, so the Storm do finish first place. Like I said, the Defenders limping into the playoffs with a 5-5 record. So they obviously lost their starting quarterback for the year with Jordan Tamu, and they have not recovered, not winning a game since they lost them. The St. Louis Battlehawks, 6-4, they will host the Louisville Kings, who are the three seed, also a new team in the UFL. So both teams had a 6-4 record. That game will be in St. Louis, the second of the two games. So the Storm will play the Defenders at 3, and the Battlehawks and Kings will play each other at 6. And then the teams that missed the playoffs, there was a scenario where you could have had every team alive for the postseason. That's how deep the league is. So Gamblers miss out. They finished fifth with a 4-6 record. Stallions, they tried to make a run at the end, but couldn't. The Dallas Renegades finished 4-6. They had a 3-0 start to the season, but collapsed late on. And then the Columbus Aviators finished 3-7. And it's not as bad as finishing last like the Orlando Guardians did, where he finished 1-9. That was not a good year for Orlando spring football. But I think the league was good this season. I think they had a good product on the field, good TV product. Attendance could have been better, but I think they're under a good direction with Mike Rapoli as their owner. So the playoffs, Defender Storm on Sunday at 3, and Kings Battlehawks is at 6 o'clock. So we have that all set up. And then the championship game will be on June 13th. I think that game is in Washington, D.C. So hopefully we can win the championship. I'll probably be at that game. We'll see. But yeah, the UFL has a lot of things going for it, and hopefully they can continue to grow. But now let's get into this is a new concept I was coming up with. So I was thinking the World Cup is starting in less than 2 weeks from now. In fact, a week from Thursday. So ten days from now, actually, the World Cup begins, which is crazy. But we'll preview that. I'll preview the World Cup in our next episode next Monday. But I started thinking with the with players in soccer playing for their national team, how would it be if NFL players played for their state national team? Like for example, if you're produced from a state, you played high school football in that state, you play for the state team, like Florida, Texas, California, Georgia, all those teams that produce a lot of players. So I got to brainstorm, my mind was wandering. So I thought, what would a team look like? What would rosters look like with those? So today I'll give you the starting quarterbacks for those state teams for potential World Cup. And so we have 16 state teams. The way I came up with that is there's an article on the NFL on NFL.com where they gave in-depth analysis to the states that produce the most players on opening day for 2025. And so I got the top 16 teams because 16 is a nice, good round number for bracket purposes, group stage purposes, whatever you want to do. So the state teams that we have are the following: Texas, Florida, California, Georgia, North Carolina, Louisiana, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, Alabama, New Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Tennessee, and Mississippi. So all the states that those are the top 16 states that produce the most NFL players as of opening day rosters for 2025. Now that could change, but that's what the data we have right now. But let's get into it. So our starting quarterback for Texas, and that is going to be Matthew Stafford, the defending MVP. He will be the starting quarterback for Texas. And I'll have the rest of the rosters released as we get closer into the World Cup. By the end of this month, we should have the full rosters, including kickers, returners, whatever. And then Florida starting quarterback, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, he's a two-time MVP. Lamar Jackson, he'd be electric to start on the Florida team. And for California, they got the California's quarterback room when I was researching this is very deep. You got players like Aaron Rodgers, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, all from California. But the starting quarterback for California would be Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Of course, he is an MVP candidate every year, and I think that he would be good on a California team because he's from Fireborough, California. And now for Georgia, this one not as much competition as you would think, but it would be Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence would be starting quarterback for the Georgia team. Of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback. He's done pretty well there. Had a 4,000-yard season this past year, and he would be the starting quarterback for Georgia. Now, I should make this clear. To be eligible, you have to either go to high school or you have to play 4 years in college in that state. So if you only played 3 years there, then it doesn't count. 3 years and then jump to the NFL. Or if you transferred to another place, you had to play 4 years at a college for it to count as playing for that state. So North Carolina, going into that now, that would be Drake May of the New England Patriots going to the Super Bowl for the first time. And he is the starting quarterback for North Carolina, born and raised in Charlotte. Obviously went to college at UNC. And then for Louisiana starting quarterback, that would be Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys, who he was born and raised, I think, in Monroe, Louisiana. Went to Mississippi State, but he's going to be the starting quarterback for his hometown Louisiana team. So we go to Ohio now, and this one was kind of easy to do. Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, an MVP candidate, went to the Super Bowl his first time. He is the starting quarterback for Ohio. He went to high school in Athens, Ohio, where his dad was the head coach there. Or I think he was head coach at the University of Ohio down there in Athens, but it's good enough for him to be the starting quarterback for Ohio. Then Illinois, this is where you make is get some backups in the NFL. But I think this guy's gonna be a starter. JJ McCarthy is the best quarterback from Illinois right now. Obviously, you have Jimmy Garoppolo in there as well. But I think in a quarterback battle between JJ McCarthy and Garoppolo, I think McCarthy would win and be the starting quarterback for the Illinois team. Then for Michigan, not it's slim pickings for Michigan quarterbacks. Obviously, JJ McCarthy. I think he spent. Let me double check this for JJ McCarthy, but did he spend 4 years at Michigan? Uh, no, he did not. He spent 3 years at Michigan, jumped to the NFL early, so he would not be eligible for the Michigan team. So instead, they go with Kirk Cousins of the Atlanta Falcons. Or wait, no, he's on the Raiders. Got traded to the Raiders. He's probably going to be the Week 1 starter for Fernando Mendoza, but we'll see how he does there. The is obviously on the older side. Michigan, it's not a good sign for Michigan that they probably don't have anyone in the immediate term. Maybe Bryce Underwood would be that player, but who knows? Alabama, this is where you start to get slim pickings here, and it would be Jameis Winston starting for Alabama. And obviously, we know that he's had an up and down NFL career currently with the Giants, but he is still an active player, and he's the best quarterback Alabama has now. And then to New Jersey, and we give the old man a chance in Joe Flacco, who I think he's from Audubon Park, New Jersey, and in South Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but he is right now the best quarterback they have at the moment. And then going to Maryland, you see, this is where you start getting into some tight waters here. But I'd have to go with Bears quarterback Caleb Williams starting for Maryland. Even though he's from Washington, D.C., I think he grew up in Maryland, technically. I think in Hyattsville, near the stadium, I want to say. But I think he spent some time living in Maryland. And D.C. is right there on the other side of the Potomac River. Um, but he did go to Gonzaga College in Washington, D.C. Born in D.C., raised there, obviously right there, just a stone's throw away from Maryland. I think that he'd be eligible for Maryland. And so Pennsylvania, this is the hardest one I could find. But for me, I would have to say it would be Kenny Pickett. Now, this was the 4-year college rule thing where Kenny Pickett played. He actually played 5 years at Pittsburgh, born and raised in New Jersey. Could be the quarterback for that team, but I think he'd be better as the quarterback for Pennsylvania. And he did play for the Steelers and the Eagles, both Pennsylvania teams at one point before getting traded to the Raiders. So, even though he's not a good pro, Kenny Pickett would be the starting quarterback for Pennsylvania. Then Virginia, this was a battle between Russell Wilson and Tyrod Taylor, but ultimately, I would say Tyrod Taylor would win that job over Russell Wilson. I don't think they were on the same team. No, because Tyrod Taylor's on the Jets, Russell Wilson was on the Giants. Played in the same stadium, but on different teams. But I think Tyrod Taylor, the Hampton, Virginia native, would be the quarterback for Virginia. And then for Tennessee, this is where you go where he was born. Tennessee doesn't have that many good starting quarterbacks. You'd have Michael Penix Jr., who was born in Cookeville, Tennessee, even though he was brought up in Florida, went to high school there. He was born in Tennessee. That's why he is going to be the Tennessee starting quarterback. Then finally, Mississippi. And this is where you land on another backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew. Of course, he played with the Chiefs last year towards ACL. Oh, I did take that into consideration. Because if you're recovering from an ACL tear, then that's why I didn't have Mahomes starting for Texas. I forgot Minshew tore his ACL too, filling in for Patrick Mahomes. So Gardner Minshew starting for Mississippi. I'll have to change that and update you because he would not be healthy to play in a World Cup this summer. But yeah, we ran over our other headlines. So instead, we're going to give you what to watch for this week. And of course, it'll be the Stanley Cup Finals Tuesday to the Golden Knights and Hurricanes, also the NBA Finals between the Spurs and the Knicks. But we also have the stream schedule up right now. We did in a post. So We will be doing Guardians Yankees Thursday afternoon, and then the French Open men's and women's finals this weekend. Also, the Valkyries and Aces WNBA game. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. Tell us what you liked, and if you had a hypothetical roster for a potential American football state World Cup teams, let me know in the description. Let me know in the comments below. And anyways, we'll see you again next time.